Good morning, Alksne lady. How are you?
Good morning, fellow Moderna.
Moderna
lady.
Are you Moderna mama as well? Good for you.
I'm a Moderna mama. Yes, I am.
It's very exciting. I was saying, you see you on TV that you have those gorgeous ice blue, steely prosecutor eyes. So when you get hopeful, I'm like, wow. Because for the layperson watching the Chauvin trial, you can't help but think, what more do they need? He seems screwed.
Yeah.
I mean, the police chief testified against him Friday, right?
No, his police chief is yet to do it. So that's just another hammer, another nail in
Lieutenant.
that coffin. But the lieutenant and his immediate supervisor testified that the force was totally unnecessary. And of course, we can all see that. I mean, the guy is handcuffed, he's face down, and he's not breathing. Okay, you don't need a lot of force at that point. And
right. They said the defense counsel said at the beginning, you'll see that Derek Chauvin did exactly what he was trained to do. Well, let's listen to Lieutenant Zimmerman talk on the other side here. This is Richard Zimmerman.
What is your view of that use of force during that time period?
Totally unnecessary.
What do you mean?
Well, first of all, pulling him down to the ground, face down, and putting your knee on the neck for that amount of time is just uncalled for.
But then further, he went on to say this real quick. Here we go.
I saw no reason why the officers felt they were in danger, if that's what they felt. And that's what they would have to feel to be able to use that kind of force.
So, in your opinion, should that restraint have stopped once he was handcuffed and prone on the ground?
Absolutely.
And Cindy, isn't that really the point legally? Is that exactly what he was not trained to do? Zimmerman said in his 30 years, he'd never been trained to kneel on a person's neck while that person is handcuffed in the prone position. In fact, the training is to get them on their side or upright as soon as possible because you can't breathe in a prone position in handcuffed. Yeah, right?
This shows two fundamental mistakes of the defense. They have really one defense, or two defenses. It's drugs and health, right? And instead, they've muddied it up by saying, "Oh, the crowd made me do it," and by the way, that's my training. Okay, the crowd didn't make them do anything, and the evidence has been overwhelming that the crowd was restrained. If that MME fighter guy had decided to jump in, we'd have a whole different situation. He was restrained personally and an amazing witness. Yeah. So the crowd did not make him do it, right? So now the defense has put forward a defense that is BS. And that hurts their credibility in the whole case. And the other is when he said, "Oh, this is our training." Okay, that's not his training. I can tell you, I've looked at hundreds of police cases in my day, in every jurisdiction you can think of, from Puerto Rico to California to Texas to Montana. Nobody has ever said when a person is lying on their belly and they can't breathe and they're restrained with they're basically hogtied behind. And they're passed out, that you do anything but stand up and put them on their side.
Yeah, so, well, that's what
So he's weak. He's so weakened his defense by muddying up with the crowd made me do it, and this is acceptable when those two are not true. Now when he stands up in front of the jury and says, "Oh, and by the way, he had a cardiac problem," everybody's like, "You know what? BS, you'll say anything." It's a huge strategic mistake. By the defense attorney.
Well, exactly. Cynthia Zimmerman said, he said, once a person is handcuffed, you get them out of the prone position as soon as possible because that position hinders a person's ability to breathe. Once a person's cuffed, he said, you need to turn that person on his side or sit them up. You need to get them off their chest. And he also said officers are trained to provide medical care for a person that's in distress, even if an ambulance has already been called. I mean, the ambulance driver had to tell Chauvin to get off his neck, and he was obviously already dead.
Plus, there's an EMT screaming, "She'll help."
Right.
On the sideline. Here's another thing that I don't think has been highlighted enough about those two witnesses, which you are correct to focus on. And that is this guy Ploger, the sergeant, Plager or Ploger, I can't remember how to pronounce his name. He is the supervisor, and he's the first person who talks to Chauvin. And what does Chauvin tell him? Oh, the guy was going crazy. So, the guy was going crazy. He wouldn't get in the car. That's what he says. He doesn't say anything about any crowd. Didn't say anything, I was worried about the crowd. He didn't mention that. And he doesn't mention that he put his knee on his neck. And you know why he doesn't mention it? Because he knows he's not supposed to.
Yeah.
And that's what we call consciousness of guilt evidence. And here's the other thing about why that's important. In police cases, there are jurors, for whatever reason, who are just, their general attitude, whether they can articulate it or not, but in their soul, is, you know what, the police have a dangerous job. I just kind of, you just got to let them do what they have to do to control them.
Yeah.
Right? But when you can show that juror that a police officer has lied, that person you revere to protect you has lied, now they are open to hearing what else has happened. And it's very important in a police case to find out where the officer's not told the truth, because that is the way to open the mind of the reluctant juror.
Right. Well, I joke because you are very steely and terrifying. You're cuddly in person, right. But most people don't know you in person. Okay, but you, because we all are getting afraid to hope in these cases, But
I feel really good about this case. And here's the thing. Usually, when you try a police case, what happened at the critical moments is in dispute, right?
Yeah.
What factually happened? Where were you? Where were you standing? Who was standing there? How long did he have his knee on his neck? There's no dispute here.
Yeah.
We all know what happened. We've all seen it from 82 different angles.
And the body cam, the police body cam footage, Cynthia, correct me if I'm wrong, seems even more damning, because you're like, oh, at no point does he seem to be resisting. He's scared and pleading the whole time.
Yeah, even if a reluctant juror might go, he's probably faking it. He's probably faking that he was so scared. Okay, let's just take that juror, because that's your job as a prosecutor, to take your worst case scenario juror, right, and figure out how you can move them. Even if you take the worst case scenario, the guy goes limp.
Yeah.
You see him in cup food, full of life, and all of a sudden he's limp.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you tweeted,
and there isn't any question about it.
Yeah, you tweeted, might be time for Derek Chauvin to consider pleading to the indictment. Case going in strong, use of force experts will make it stronger, not worried about toxicology. Floyd full of life in the video before the encounter, not worried about heart condition. Half of Florida has the same. It's just, that's the, are you, effing kidding me part of the, oh, really? He died of a drug overdose? Because that doesn't seem like saying I can't breathe 75 times and I want my mother. It doesn't seem like, an opioid overdose.
Right.
It's...
What is it? It's just a coincidence that he dies and the guy's knee is on his neck? Because recognize in Minnesota for the second-degree murder, all the knee has to be is a substantial factor, not the only factor. So
yeah.
Otherwise, the only defense is, it was just a frigging coincidence that he died at that moment.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to believe that.
Yeah.
And how do you not get on the third degree? How do you not get that it takes a depraved heart? I don't know if you remember this testimony, because perhaps you have other things to do in your life than watch every moment of this trial, unlike me. But
no, I don't have anything else to do. But go ahead.
During the testimony, I keep going back to that MMA fighter because I just thought he was so extraordinary and magical. He says the whole thing is happening. He's screaming at him, and he's very restrained, but he's screaming at him. You're killing him. You're kidding him. You're killing him. You're in a blood choke. And he and Chauvin make eye contact. And Chauvin, to show him who's boss, digs the knee in more. That's depraved heart.
Yeah.
And, the whole thing is depraved heart, but that highlights it. You really feel like, I feel like when I watch this, I've stepped back in time, and I'm on a slave plantation, and this little teeny overseer is killing a slave to show who's boss to everybody else. That's really the core racism and cruelty. He has this huge man, and he's obviously stronger than Chauvin. His arm muscles are so developed. He obviously lifts weights regularly. He's just beautiful.
Yeah.
And Chauvin has this little man's complex, and he's going to show him who's boss, and he's also going to show all those people yelling at him who's boss. And that's what's going on. It's core racism.
Yeah, well, and threatening to mace the female EMT who threatened to help. He threatens to mace her. you know,
Right. And the Tao guy goes, hey, if you were really an EMT, you'd know not to interfere with the police. You know what that is? We got the thin blue line going here, baby. You better get on board.
Yeah.
That's what that's saying.
You had some legal thoughts on Matt Gaetz. You said couldn't happen to a nicer guy. Good riddance. I mean,
start on Matt Gaetz. My mother from heaven is looking down, going, "You said that?"
I mean, no, but it is. That's the thing. In all the just, you know, you can't help it because he's so awful and such a douche. But you know, there's victims in this, and as someone that's prosecuted a lot of sex crimes, I mean, we have to remember these are teenage girls, right? Anyway, go ahead.
Like to divide this into two things.
Okay.
First, there is a certain Schadenfreude about couldn't happen to a nicer guy, and there are jokes there because he's so disgusting.
Right.
And the older he gets, the more his pompadour grows. Pompadour, or whatever you call that. His hair gets long. It's very funny. Anyway, but so there is the grossness of his scandal about showing pictures and, you know, everything he's done with girls, with women over 18. You know, his great desire to have a college girlfriend when he's in his late 30s.
Right.
All of that is funny, but under 18, not funny.
Yeah.
Yeah,
not if it's your daughter, for sure.
And I completely agree. Not if it's my daughter. And, you know, I completely agree. And I need to make that more clear. I mean, I started out that way in that interview, and then when I said what I said later that, you know about, that really had to do with just the fact that he's just disgusting and gross and cruising around Washington.
Yeah.
And it's shocking to me that the Republicans don't come out against him, and it says to me that they're still afraid of Trump. They're still afraid Trump will jump in.
Well, Trump hasn't, though. Isn't that telling? It's, you know, Matt Gaetz, the biggest Trump bootlicker ever, and Trump has been completely silent on this.
Right. No, he's just AWOL. Yeah. For the first time, he's happy he doesn't have a Twitter account so that nobody.
It feels like he's going to be indicted soon. What do you make of this whole nonsense and the extortion charge and I mean, this seems like.
You mean Trump indicted soon, or
no, Gaetz.
Oh, it feels like it. I mean, it feels like he's trying very hard on an offense, but I can tell you it's legally ridiculous. He should be quiet.
Yeah.
But he's apparently not able to do that constitutionally, and it hurts him. I mean, this is a guy who goes on the air and he says, "Oh, there's these charges against me," and he basically admits to interstate commerce and admits to payments, and doesn't even really on that first Tucker Carlson interview deny having sex with a 17-year-old. That was weird. And then he brought up in it all that there was an FBI investigation on pay for play. Nobody had heard that before. He brought it up and said someone, you know, was questioned about that. Well, I didn't know that. Nobody knew he had that investigation. And then he said, oh, also there's rumors that there are pictures with me with prostitutes, child prostitutes. That's not true. Okay. No one thought there were until now. You brought it up. Now we kind of want to know.
I would have given anything to be watching that Tucker Carlson interview with you as you screamed at the screen. You idiot. Shut up. Shut up.
Wow. No, keep talking. No. You missed my, focus. I'm like, keep talking. As a lawyer, I'm like, you ought to be quiet. But as a human being, I'm like, give me some more. Give me some more. Who else is investigating you? What else you got? What else you got? You got any, high school yearbooks you can show us? I mean, what do you got? Love it. Keep talking.
Keep going.
What'd you show to Trump? Keep telling us. You and Trump on the phone, and I'm like, what are you doing with DeSantis? Why is he your big buddy? What's going on with that? I'm all for it.
Let's all go out for some Merlot with John Boehner and talk it out. Okay. Yeah. Well, I don't know. It all seems, maybe it's our Moderna side effects, but I'm feeling pretty giddy about justice coming. So, thanks for taking time. You've been fantastic on the TV machine. I'm following your every word on all this. So, thanks for taking time, fancy TV lady.
Great to hear from you, fancy radio lady.
Okay.
Sexy liberal mama.
All right. Love you. Talk to you soon.
Good morning, dear.
Cut!
We have a lot to celebrate this week.
You have the right to remain tripping your balls off.
It's like Illuminati, but with leather.
First day at Fight Club, you must fight!
2020
refuses to concede.
I was going to have to return 2021 because I didn't like the 7-day trial. But I'm in now. We're in, sexy liberals.